Yo, what's going on YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and we are taking a look at the Buffalo Sabres captain Jack Eichel. We're going to be taking a look at some mock trades for the captain of the Buffalo Sabres in this video. If you guys like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and an even bigger subscribe down below. And let's take a look at potential trades for Jack Eichel. Alright, so right off the bat, I just want to announce to you guys, yes, this may look a little bit different with the camera situation. My Mac, believe it or not, is very old. It's 8 years old. I got this back in 2013, and we're finally having some problems with iMovies, which just so happens to be right before they released the new iMac. So, a little bit of skepticism there, but we're not going to worry about that too much today. So if you're wondering about that, yes, this is going to be the setup for the next little while until I eventually get either the new old MacBook or the new iMac. That's just how it's going to work. But that's besides the point. We're taking a look at Jack Eichel, the captain of the Buffalo Sabres. What kind of trades could we see for the star center? Now, there's a couple of teams that are quite interesting, and I have 4 on this list today. 2 of them in California, 1 on the East Coast, and then a team up north of the border in Canada. So we have a little bit of a different scape from all over the league. So the first team we're going to take a look at is the Anaheim Ducks. Yes, my second favorite team. Not a shock, they are here. Now, the interesting thing here with the Ducks is they have a couple of young guys that are expendable. Now, a lot of them are forwards. But they also have somebody in between the pipes named John Gibson that is kind of hard to refuse if you are the Buffalo Sabres right now. And you may be saying, don't say it. Yeah, we'll get into it. So the Anaheim Ducks. My trade for the Anaheim Ducks. Now let's just remember here, Jack Eichel is worth $10 million per season for the next 5 or 6 seasons, depending on when you watch this video. Jack Eichel has plenty of term left on his contract, and he's making $10 million per season. You could say that's a good contract, a bad contract based off of what he's provided to the Buffalo Sabres, but that's his worth. So that's the baseline. So every trade is going to be straight up for Jack Eichel. Nothing else involved. Jack Eichel and his $10 million for the next 5 or 6 years for whatever other assets. So the Anaheim Ducks in this trade are trading away young forward Max Jones, a former first-round pick. He's on his entry-level contract, and he's a pretty solid player. He's a bigger guy, but unfortunately, as we start to see the development of guys like Sam Steele, Isaac Lundestrom, Maxime Comtois, who, by the way, is leading the team in points, Trevor Zegras, the spot for Max Jones starts to become a little bit more clear, and that is in the bottom 6. He's just not getting the opportunities that, potentially he would have had when he was drafted by the Ducks from the London Knights of the OHL. So he's a part of this deal. So potential top 6 forward, more likely a middle 6 forward that could fit in for the Buffalo Sabres. And let's also remember, cheap. He's on his entry-level contract, a much cheaper option than, say, keeping a Curtis Lazar around or one of those other guys in Buffalo. He is a much cheaper and more efficient, younger option. Another piece of this trade is centerman/winger, depending on the day, Rickard Rakell. He's making $3.8 million per season for the next 2 years. This is a great contract, and the Buffalo Sabres could use some good contracts, especially with the situation with the $9 million they are putting into Jeff Skinner, as well as the rest of Kyle Oposo's contract, where he's making over $6 million per season. That hurts the cap situation for the Sabres. That's 15 or 16 million in 2 guys that combined have not combined for 30 points in at least 2 years. So that's a little bit, of a situation. So now you bring in Rickard Rakell, who could play in the top 6, potentially replace Jack Eichel on that top line. Now, he is not Jack Eichel by any means, but as Dylan Cousins, Casey Middlestat, some of these other young guys in Buffalo start to develop, he is more likely going to become the second-line center for the Buffalo Sabres. And then the big piece of this trade is goaltender John Gibson. John Gibson is making he's making a great contract, $6.4 million per season for the next 6 years. A great contract. You look at some of these guys around the league like Carey Price, Sergei Bobrovsky, who are making over $10 million per season. John Gibson doesn't provide that much of a different stat line compared to those guys over the last few years, and is only making $6.5 million per year. This is a great contract for the Buffalo Sabres. Like I said, contracts being a big thing here for the Buffalo Sabres. With the 6.4 plus the 3.8 of Rickard Rakell, adds up to right around $10 million. Entry-level contract for Max Jones, so that doesn't really count for much. So the Buffalo Sabres get that cap pretty much right back, and the Buffalo Sabres and the Anaheim Ducks are actually able to clear out a little bit of cap space in this deal. Honestly, I think it's a good trade for both sides. The Buffalo Sabres, who are looking to somehow replace Jack Eichel in keeping that win-now mode. You get Rickard Rakell, top 6 center. You get a really bona fide starting goaltender in John Gibson, who is not that far from Pittsburgh, as the Pittsburgh Penguins seem to like their goaltending right now, so maybe we see him go to Buffalo, which is definitely a lot closer than Southern California in Anaheim. So I think there could be a deal that works there for John Gibson for Jack Eichel in a massive blockbuster trade. The second team we're taking a look at, we're staying on the West Coast, on the southern border of California, and that is the Los Angeles Kings. The Los Angeles Kings going after Jack Eichel. We've heard these rumors over the past couple weeks. They are one of the big teams that have been in on Jack Eichel and his $10 million contract. And here's the price tag. Jonathan Quick, who is making a pretty nice contract, $5.4 million for the next 3 years. Not too bad, not too bad. And he's an older goaltender. So he's not the big piece of this trade, but he adds a goaltender back. As long as you're able to move out guys like Ullmark and Hutton, you have your starting goaltender for the next 2 to 3 years as a bridge goaltender until hopefully they could find somebody else to replace Jonathan Quick. They could still stay a competitive team, and they also are able to move out Jack Eichel, which obviously the situation has not worked out for him. So you pick up Jonathan Quick. You also pick up in this trade center Alex Turcotte, former first-round pick, and this is really the big piece of this trade. Alex Turcotte provides, again, that talent. He's a really solid player playing with the Wisconsin Badgers. He has done very well in the Big Ten NCAA ice hockey. He's playing very well at the collegiate level, so we'll see what happens with Turcotte. I have a lot of expectations for him. I think a lot of people in general have high expectations for this kid, and again, this is a guy that the LA Kings, they're kind of giving up on the future to win now with Jack Eichel, but maybe they're willing to do that. And for the Buffalo Sabres, he has the potential to become, at maybe behind Dylan Cousins, but the potential to become the number 1 center for the Buffalo Sabres. And especially now that we're seeing guys, like Andreas Athanasiou, Elias Anderson, Gabriel Velarde come into the equation down the middle for the Kings. Maybe it makes Alex Turcotte just a little bit more expendable. And now you bring in Jack Eichel, so you don't really need that Alex Turcotte as much. And that's kind of how that goes. Left shot defenseman Tobias Bjornfot is the next guy on our list. He is on an entry-level contract. That's another thing to remember with Turcotte. He still has 3 years on his ELC, and I believe Bjornfot has 3 years left on his ELC as well. He's a left shot defenseman. He's 19 years old, and he's already playing in the top 6 in terms of D-men for the Los Angeles Kings. He'd fit in nicely on the left side for the Sabres, pending that they make a couple of moves at the deadline, maybe trading a Rasmus Ristolainen or a Colin Miller or a Brandon Montour. Now you have the ability to bring in Tobias Bjornfot to play in the top 6 as a defenseman, and he also provides that stability as a younger guy on a cheap contract. Again, we keep bringing that up, but that does matter in Buffalo right now, and they can kind of continue that win-now mode with a slight twist in a rebuild sort of mode as well. Excuse me, guys. Now I'm also going to throw in a first-round pick. Now, I am going to assume it will be the 2022 first-round pick for the LA Kings, because the Kings don't have, unless they really turn it on here over the next couple weeks, which they could, and they really feel like they can get Jack Eichel now, they can trade a first-round pick, knowing that they will make the postseason, not worry about, potentially giving a lottery pick to the Buffalo Sabres. Maybe that's something we see the LA Kings do. And again, it's a risky move. You obviously have to have some kind of protection, a lottery protection for that first year, I would think. but definitely an interesting scenario. The Buffalo Sabres, guys, this is a team to keep an eye on if they get draft picks like that. And like I said, you've pretty much filled out all your needs. You get another draft pick, you get a goaltender, a solid goaltender in Jonathan Quick. You pick up a young left shot defenseman, and you also pick up a potential top 6 center in Alex Turcotte. This looks like a pretty solid deal for the Buffalo Sabres and the Los Angeles Kings. Now we're moving to the East Coast as we take a look at the New York Rangers. The New York Rangers have been heavily in the rumor mill for Jack Eichel. We've heard a lot of talk that the Rangers, have been talking to the Sabres management and kind of figuring out what's the price tag for Jack Eichel. And we have a lot of pieces in this deal as well. So the New York Rangers have obviously been in a rebuild, retool, and they've been collecting a lot of prospects and assets. And now that they have two back-to-back first and second overall draft picks, and their defense is starting to come together over the next couple of years as they continue this retool, they could use that star-studded center. And we've seen Mika Zibanejad really fall off for the Buffalo Sabres. I'm not saying he's going to be expendable in this deal, but that is something to keep an eye on. Looking at the trade, Alex Georgiev, we see another goaltender off the board here. He's 26 years old, 24 years old. He has this year and next year left on his contract, and that's a very nice contract. I think he's making $2.6 per season. That's a very nice deal. And worst case, Buffalo Sabres, if they don't like what he does this season and next year, they could trade him at the trade deadline next year. And best case scenario, they extend him and they keep him around in Buffalo to potentially become the next starter in Buffalo. And he's a little bit younger than guys like Jonathan Quick, so I think there is something to that. Now, we've also got in here as well, right shot defenseman, don't say it, I'm going to say it, Tony DeAngelo and his contract could head to Buffalo. Now, is this what Buffalo necessarily needs? Is a potential headache in the locker room after everything that's been going on? No. But this is a low risk, high reward potential here for the Buffalo Sabres. Now, there is risk. I will say there is risk because you're bringing a potential player that doesn't fit in well into your locker room. I totally agree with that. There is that chance that happens, but with his $3.7 this year and $4.8 next year $1 million cap hit, it will help the New York Rangers moving out some salary alongside of Alex Georgiev that this deal could go through. You've also got in this deal as well Vitaly Kravtsov, who is a very solid young Russian forward. He could potentially be a top 6 forward. He's a former first-round pick of the New York Rangers. Him and David Quinn don't seem to be getting along very much, so we could see a potential return to North America for Kravtsov, but maybe in a different sweater. And I also threw in here first-round picks as well. I think you have to throw in one first-round pick because we're talking about Jack Eichel. And we're also throwing in another draft pick because I think in order for the Rangers to move out DeAngelo's contract, they're going to have to give up more. They're going to have to compensate. And that may be, the reward that the Buffalo Sabres get for taking DeAngelo. Not only do they take a potential nice right shot defenseman, but they're also taking away the headache and, more importantly, the cap hit of Tony DeAngelo. Now the fourth team we're taking a look at up north of the border, and that is the Calgary Flames. Now, I've been talking about in my recent power rankings and other videos with the Flames that they could go big game hunting over the next couple of months. And why not go after the Buffalo Sabres captain, superstar Jack Eichel? And they have a decent amount of assets to add in a potential trade. In this trade, we're going to see left shot defenseman Noah Hanifin, making over $4 million per season, be the main piece of this trade. He was a former first-round pick of the Carolina Hurricanes back in 2017 or 2018, and he really hasn't fared out well in Carolina. He struggled a little bit here in Calgary. It seems like his name's always thrown around in the conversation. He's a good defenseman, but I think there's interest from around the rest of the league that maybe, just maybe, they could pry him away. So that is something to keep an eye on. We're also looking at centerman Dylan Dubé, a young guy who's been playing on and off with the Calgary Flames, going down to the American League team as well. We're also taking a look at former 2020 first-round pick of the Flames, Connor Zary, and I think he's another guy that could be of interest here to the Buffalo Sabres. Again, you're adding some forward depth, and you're getting that in both of those guys. Potential top 6 forwards. And then you're also going to see 2 first-round picks over the next 2 years from the Calgary Flames. The Calgary Flames should make the playoffs. I mean, Montreal, if they keep things up, they may lose that spot to the Flames here. And that's the other thing. If the Flames believe they can be a buyer here, they may do this, try and get this done at the trade deadline. And that also affects the value of those first-round picks. If Calgary's in a playoff spot by the trade deadline, maybe that first-round pick's value diminishes just a little bit, so they have to throw in 2 first-round picks for Jack Eichel. I could definitely see that happening. So, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? And what other teams around the league do you think will be looking for the services of Jack Eichel? And if so, what is the cost for that team? Leave some mock trades in the comment section down below. If you guys like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey and want to see the latest news around the NHL, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up. And even bigger, subscribe down below. Thank you so much for watching.